So, hello to everyone, and thank you very much for joining today's webinar where we'll be discussing what BD marketing candidates need to know before taking the leap. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Natalie. I'm a principal consultant on the BD marketing team here. I work with a wide range of clients across consulting, accountancy, and commercial real estate, supporting on roles from junior level all the way up to head of director. I'm joined today by my colleague Charles Cerner, who is also a consultant on our team here. Charles focuses on BD marketing within the legal space, covering positions from assistant through to senior exec. So before I hand over to Charles to walk us through today's agenda, I just want to highlight that everything that we discuss today is based on our own insights that we've obtained from hiring managers, candidates, and of course our own experience in the market. And we completely appreciate that everyone's situation is unique. Firms vary in size, structure, and how they approach career development. So if there's anything that we cover today that doesn't quite resonate with your experience or feels less applicable to your firm, by all means, we're more than happy to have a confidential conversation with you after today's session. So just wanted to cover off on that. So with that, I'll hand over to Charles to walk us through today's agenda. Over to you, Charles.
Great. Thank you so much, Natalie. A good day to all of you. So just to kind of give you a quick overview of what we will cover for today. As you can see in the slide, we will give a brief introduction as to why we have chosen the topic for today's webinar. After that, we will provide a generalized distinction of expectations between executive level and senior executive level day-to-day duties and responsibilities and competencies. Some key insights as well and tips as to how you can gain the experience to step up. After that, it is also important to cover all bases for all of you. So we will talk about the option for a sidestep. And finally, we will provide you with tips on how to handle interviews and more precisely how to avoid the common mistakes typically faced during an interview. We shall very much appreciate answering your questions later on. Feel free to write down any questions you may have throughout the webinar down in the comment section or Q&A section, and we will endeavor to answer all of them at the end. Over to you again, Natalie.
Perfect. Thank you, Charles. So why did we pick this topic? So we noticed that there's a wealth of information out there aimed at the sort of more senior level professionals within BD marketing, but far less guidance for those at the junior to sort of senior exec level. But yet this is one of the most competitive areas. So, with our hiring managers having really high expectations in this space. So that's why we're here today to offer practical, actionable advice tailored specifically to you. So we'll be covering key skills you need to demonstrate to successfully step up in your career, how to prepare, not just for interviews, but in building that experience that's really going to set you apart from your peers, CV interview do's and don'ts, and insights directly from our hiring managers about what they're looking for whilst recruiting at this level. We speak to candidates every day, and we know that a lot of you find it difficult to take that next step up. So our goal is to help you change that by giving you the tools and confidence to be able to move forward. So I think our next slide is going to cover off the differences between exec to senior exec. Is that right, Charles?
Yes, exactly right there, Natalie. Thank you so much. So as mentioned earlier, we will talk to you about how you can gain the experience and key competencies required to step up into the senior executive level at some point in your careers. But before we do so, I think it's very imperative to actually first identify what it is that differentiates execs and senior execs to begin with. Now, I'm sure most, if not all of you, will appreciate this list will vary firm by firm, team by team in actual practice. But this is a good guide based on what we see every day in the market and what our hiring managers and professionals have informed us about. So I will go through the executive list first. as you can see there, reactive. Now, executive level professionals in BD and marketing are those expected to take action from the clear and precise instructions of their managers, the doers, as they say. And that is what we mean as well by following the manager's lead. And, a good amount of executives would have progressed within their current industries, BD within legal or broader professional services, meaning it is generally expected by managers and partners that you have already, or you have the foundational knowledge already of your industry or your business area and of the purpose of your role. And so you're not and should not be expected to be fully ready to run things on your own. That also means that one of the main purposes of your role is to deliver on the instructions given from the higher ups or to execute the strategies discussed by your directors, heads of, managers, or partners. The administrative side of BD is something that you have to do as well. And it's something that's very important when you think about the tasks and of gathering or researching information, collating relevant materials, or liaising with any of the relevant parties in any task. It matters that it is done efficiently and, quite frankly, quickly. As executives, you are expected to be more knowledgeable about the process, that you should be quicker than an assistant to do the administrative work due to your experience in doing it already. And moving on to the senior executive bit of the slide, whereas execs are typically expected to be reactive, senior execs are expected to be proactive whilst you are still operating under the supervision of your manager. There is that inherent understanding that managers or partners can turn to a senior exec and start asking them what they see is the best way to approach certain tasks rather than just telling them what to do. This is where active strategic involvement comes in as well. As part of that, and depending on the team structure of your firm, you could also be expected to work more independently. I see it most often in lean teams or practices. And so that means mainly really with sort of like some of the US law firms for now, or specialist law firms with smaller BD and marketing teams. And, speaking with the senior executives I have placed in lean teams, they have highlighted essentially being given free rein on activities and simply going to their managers for sign-off on the work that they're doing. And given the autonomy, that also means increased partner interactions as part of your day-to-day. I have actually coined the term partner proximity premium. I think a lot of junior professionals these days are wondering what is the most important aspect of their role. And based on what I hear all the time from firms and from professionals, it is the genuine relationships that you build with your partners, as they are the most important stakeholder within your firm aside from your immediate BD team. And last but not the least is confidence. That is very much, again, expected as a senior exec. I've spoken to a number of senior exec level professionals for this webinar specifically, and all of them have pointed out that the best way for you to gain the confidence to do anything or to engage and advise partners is to simply do it. There is no other way. There is not a specific formula to follow. You just have to bite the bullet. So just do it is the message on that one. Any questions, please do note them down in the comment section down below. And over to you, Natalie.
Thank you, Charles. That's a great advice there. So gaining the experience to step up. So there's quite a few points to cover here. I think my first one is to have regular one-to-one meetings with your line manager. To be honest, this should be seen as a non-negotiable. It's really important, I think, to be clear about your career goals and aspirations from the outset. I think without that clarity, it's really easy to fall into the trap of feeling frustrated when opportunities don't come your way. But if you haven't communicated what you're looking for or what you're aiming for, then how can anyone else sort of support you getting there. So whether it's weekly, fortnightly, make sure you're getting that FaceTime with your manager. I think it's a small but really powerful step in sort of owning your development. And I think that ties in with my next point, which is around feedback. So being open to feedback, both positive and constructive, is essential. Constructive feedback can be tough to hear, but as long as it's actionable, I think it's incredibly valuable. Try not to react in the moment. Take time to reflect on the feedback. And if anything feels kind of unclear or vague, don't hesitate to schedule a follow-up conversation to sort of dig into those specifics, because that's what's going to help you improve. I think it's really important, whilst you need to have support of your firm, your line manager, you do need to take ownership of your own development. So, to give you an example, one candidate I spoke to when gathering insights for the webinar shared a great example of this. So early on in her BD career, she knew that building relationships and networking with clients was going to be vital, central to her role, right? But she felt that was a personal weakness. So she made a conscious effort to attend every networking opportunity she could, whether that was sort of team on team, within the firm, or at external events. And, over time, gradually, her confidence grew, her skills improved, and overall just made her much better at her job. So I think it's a great reminder that sort of stepping outside your comfort zone can sort of really accelerate your growth. Another great way to stand out, I think, is by putting your hand up for projects outside of your day-to-day responsibilities. I think this is really what can get you noticed, in your current firm, when you're going out to interview. I think it shows initiatives and gives you really good examples to talk about at interviews, demonstrating how you've gone above and beyond your core role. I think these experiences can actually set you apart from your peers in a competitive field. So I definitely would suggest you getting involved in other areas outside of your day-to-day. Also, a really big advocate for mentoring programs. Most firms either should have them in place, and if yours don't, I would suggest speaking to your line manager or HR, as there could be, opportunities to connect with someone that you admire within the business. It doesn't have to be someone in your immediate team. If there's someone that you aspire to be like or look up to, don't be afraid to approach them. Chances are they'll be super flattered and happy to support you. I will caveat that by saying, check with your line manager first before approaching a mentor. And if mentoring isn't an option in your firm, there are some really great external programs that you can get involved in, like those run by the PM Forum. That's available to sort of legal candidates and wider professional services. There's also the LMA that I'll let Charles briefly touch on, as that's in your space, Charles.
Yes, so the Legal Marketing Association, or the LMA, is an established network group for legal BD and marketing professionals. They provide mentorship programs, organize networking events, and various sessions useful for the profession. As some of you would know already, we at Ambition work closely with them. Their networking sessions are a great opportunity to meet counterparts and build relationships within your area.
Completely agree. Thank you, Charles. And again, Charles has briefly touched on this, but again, I think it just highlights the importance of it. So I just want to go over it again about that partnership exposure. Especially at this level, this exec level now, even if you're not leading meetings independently, you need to be getting in front of those fee earners, partners. When you go for that next step, hiring managers will absolutely be asking about that exposure that you've had with those senior stakeholders. So if you're not getting that exposure now, again, I think it's time to have that conversation on how to build that in, whether it's shadowing the senior execs or managers. I think it's a really good way in sort of developing your confidence and skill set. Also, it's just something I wanted to mention, which I found really insightful. I was speaking to one of my contacts, again, getting information for the webinar, director of BD and marketing within a professional services firm. She's a really big advocate for giving junior candidates the opportunity to kind of build their confidence and sort of take the floor, if you like. So weekly, they obviously have a BD marketing catch up. She never chairs that meeting as the director of BD. She always allows or gives the opportunity rather to somebody, whether it be the assistant in the team, the exec, the senior exec, one of the junior managers, because it gives everyone an opportunity, as I said, to take the floor, to lead a meeting. And again, it just really helps your development. So I don't know if that, for those of you that perhaps don't have that exposure at the moment, is that something that you could maybe look into within your current firm or team? So finally, a word on saying yes to everything. We've all been there. At the junior, I think, to mid-level, there's often a tendency to agree to take on every task that's asked of you because we don't want to appear inexperienced or that we don't know what we're doing. But I think it's probably more damaging to actually take on something and then not be able to deliver it to a really high standard. So if you are asked to take something on and, it's something that you're unsure of, make sure you say, obviously I'm happy to do this, would welcome it, but I'm going to need some support. Again, it's just showing self-awareness and a willingness to learn. I promise you that is a quality that every potential hiring manager will value. No one expects you to know everything all of the time. We're always constantly learning. So I think back to you now, Charles, for sidestep versus step up.
Thank you so much. Does it have to be a sidestep? I know that we have spoken today mainly to give all of you guidance on how to gain the skills to step up into the next level. But I think, we will do you a disservice by not highlighting one of the giant elephants in the recruitment room, which is, the value of a sidestep or a lateral move where one professional moves to a different firm on the same level that they are in now. When I say same or similar, I don't really mean sort of like for like, just like no roles are exactly the same, right? So particularly when, considering context and various factors, and when you funnel in your actual main motivation in considering other opportunities. So this is essentially a bit of a myth-busting bit of the webinar as well, as I talk about some of the reasons why considering a sidestep can also be beneficial for you. So I've put down a few factors on there. So the first one is financial. All of you will have, varying motivations as to why you are looking. And I think one of the main ones for some is quite frankly financial. So logically, it makes sense that some would think that the way to get a great salary uplift is to step up from your current job title, when in actual fact, you do not need a step up to get a salary uplift. This is why, it's very important to have a frank, confidential chat with me or Natalie or any of your recruiter within Ambition, because we can really hone in on what is the most important for you or your key motivating factor and how we can feasibly get there. Just because you want more money does not mean you need to stretch yourself or your experience that would lead you to consider more senior roles, because more often than not, you probably need more time to stay within your current level, but increase your scope and experience within a different team elsewhere. And that leads us, I think, well into another key factor I've noted down here, which is, gaining broader experience. Making a smart move is more important than making a step up move. Recently I have supported a legal BD executive who is a long-term contact of mine, together having heard in length from her about where she wants to see her career in the long term. We decided that it is best for her to move laterally with a not so substantial salary increase in order to gain the broader experience that she needs. And she feels very happy about her decision because now she is doing what she wants in the long term. And so, wanting to gain further or new experience and skills through a step up is not typically an advisable move and would not provide firms and hiring managers the confidence about your judgment. So really think about your skills and what you can offer in a role. Next one is caliber and scope of the firm. So quite similar to the previous point, really, but more specific on your expectations in terms of the firm type. So just practically speaking, if you want to join a high ranking firm than where you are now, or a firm that is more international in scope compared to your national focused firm, a much better option for you is to consider a sidestep. You will be joining a different environment, dealing with partners who likely will have different expectations and work styles. Therefore, given that, as I pointed out earlier, that one of the key things really that's important for firms and hiring managers when considering a senior exec is the ability for you to deal with partners within their firm, it would be good for you to join laterally, gain the experience of dealing with partners, and have a more credible route to be promoted that way internally. And, that is also what I mean here by more opportunity to deliver. By entering a new role where expectations of you skills-wise is essentially the same or similar to what you are doing now, you are giving yourself a lot of room to focus on gaining competencies on the other elements of your role, such as building relationships with your stakeholders, getting to know your firm or your team more without the worry of, can I actually deliver as well on the skills that they need from you for that role? You would rather always be able to over-deliver than under-deliver. So, as pointed out here as well, if you are going to take away anything from this section of the webinar, it is that title is not everything. Not only will firms have different expectations from professionals of certain job titles, but the fact of the matter is, certainly within the legal sector, various firms just have their own job titles and structures. Some US law firms actually consider the coordinator title as their senior execs. Some firms don't even have the senior exec level. So do not base your career move just for the sake of a title, because I promise you, hiring managers and firms will focus on your competency and your ability to deliver rather than what title is attached to your name on a CV. So that's my bit done. Over to you again, Natalie.
Perfect. I think everything that you've just said there really ties in nicely with the sort of interview do's and don'ts. And I did want to start with CVs. Obviously, it's every recruiter's favourite subject. But I cannot stress how important it is to get your CV right. Your CV is what will get you through the door and in front of hiring managers. It needs to be sharp, accurate, and tailored. That is so important, the tailored part. To whatever job you're going for, that CV needs to be tailored. I think very often, too often, people throw together a CV without much thought. But, you need to know your CV inside out, back to front, upside down, especially when you are at an interview physically in front of a hiring manager. You're not going to have your CV there. So you need to be able to speak really confidently about what's on your CV. So take the time to work with your recruiter. Use us. We can help you get it to the highest possible standard. Again, like Charles said, I promise you people are not looking at your job title. It will be what you have done, those key achievements on your CV. That's what they jump straight to. And again, like I mentioned earlier, get those, extra projects or things that you've led on independently on your CV front and center. Again, I think that's what's going to set you apart from your peers. Also, really important, make sure your CV aligns with your LinkedIn profile. So as much as you do your due diligence on the firm, your hiring managers before you go for interview, I promise you they will be doing the same to you. So definitely make sure they marry up, because I think any inconsistencies can cause red flags. So they need to tell the same story essentially. Be transparent about your progression on your CV. This is really, really important. We've had instances in the past after interview where clients have come back to us to say, their CV suggests that they've been operating at exec level for 3 years. However, during the interview, it's come to light that they've only got promoted from an assistant 6 months ago. So you really need to make sure that those roles are really clear. It's really important not to kind of mislead recruiting managers or hiring managers. Next, I want to go on to feedback that we get from our clients is that at interview, candidates struggle to articulate their individual contributions. So this happens a lot. There's often a lot of "we did this" or "I was a part of a team that done that," which is great. You're a team player. Fantastic. That is really good. But to step up, you need to be able to talk about what you did, what your role was, and what value did you add. And again, when thinking about stepping up now, it's about being able to demonstrate your commercial awareness. Again, not just what you did, but why you did it and what impact did you have. That's really important. What impact did you have? So, for example, I appreciate probably some of you on the call today have got quite big marketing teams, but one example would be when I joined the firm, they had little to no social media presence. Within 3 months, I grew that by 25%. That's great, but why did you do that? Do you understand why and what the outcome was for the firm? And how did they benefit? Another example that might be a little bit more BD related, that perhaps you have inherited an annual event, let's just say. And since you've joined, has attendance gone up? Has it improved year on year? Have you had really positive feedback from your partners? And talk about statistics. That's really, really important. Again, it's that strategic mindset and showing that you understand why you're doing things. Another key point, I'm a big advocate for this. Be yourself. It's really important. Again, what comes up a lot is when clients are interviewing at this level, there is a tendency for candidates to be almost just giving textbook answers, kind of almost predicting what clients want to hear. And this is genuine feedback. We get this. We've had this from our clients. Firms are just not assessing your experience. Obviously, that's key, right? But they want to know what you're like to work with. So, be authentic. That really does go a long way. You be honest, but obviously without being negative. One client shared a really good example with me, actually, about collaboration across practice groups while she was interviewing a candidate. And the candidate just simply said, it's just not easy, is it? And then shared their real experiences. And the client was blown away. She found it so refreshing. So again, be open about your challenges, but always frame them super constructively. So they are my key interview tips. I hope you found that helpful. If I haven't covered anything, by all means, you can reach out to us after today's session. So I think we now have some time for questions. Is that right, Charles?
Absolutely. Let's leave a few moments for people to have a chance to think about some of the questions they want to ask.
Oh, I can just see one. Oh, perfect. Should I use AI for my CV? Oh, I thought a question about AI would come up, actually, considering, it's a hot topic at the moment, isn't it? So shall I start with that one, Charles?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Perfect. So in a nutshell, no, not completely. If you want to use AI, I am a big fan of AI. And I think, lots of firms are building it into their teams. And obviously it helps. But I think if you want to use AI, it's absolutely no problem. But use it to create a CV template and then kind of personalize it from there. So that's what I would say. Yes, it can help, but you don't want it to sound like it is an AI CV. So again, get the template going. Use Ambition to help you with your CV. I think that's really super important. Is there anything you want to add there, Charles?
No, you know what? I mean, I second everything that you said about the use of AI in sort of creating your CV. Absolutely. I think I would just use it as a guide to help you perhaps structure it, create sort of like an idea of what you should focus on when it comes to, the key competencies and day-to-day that you have done over the time within that role. But just to flag more specifically as well, a number of my clients within the legal sector have actually explicitly told me that they do have technology that can detect the use of AI or the likes of ChatGPT when creating CV. And so I would just not advise anyone to kind of like writing up their entire CV using AI or the likes of ChatGPT, because you just don't want that to derail the opportunity to be considered by a firm, because more and more of them are being more vigilant in terms of the use of AI in anything that we do, particularly when it comes to considering applications for their role.
Perfect. Super, super good advice there. Okay, another question. Oh, this is so exciting that we're getting questions. Really appreciate your advice. I've been in exec for 2 years. How will it be perceived if I do another sidestep? Does it look bad in regards to progression? Charles, do you want to start with this one? Because I know you spoke a little bit about this during the webinar.
Yes, exactly. I mean, firstly, I would not focus on the number of years that you've had within your current role or like the length of time that you've spent in any role. It's all about whether, you enjoy doing the role. Do you feel like you have, anything else that you can gain from it, a new challenge, development areas as well. It would not worry me to move to a sidestep if perhaps you've been within your current role for 2 years. If anything, that broadens your options of consider, should you actually step up? Should you move sideways? And as I've said earlier, it really depends on the context or various factors. For example, let's say, appreciate you've been an exec for 2 years with a firm that's a little bit more national focused, or let's say a more sort of like boutique law firm, and you have aspirations to join, let's say, a more international focused firm, or a firm that is sort of like ranked higher than your current firm. Again, based on information I've shared earlier, it's, logically, absolutely, you can still credibly consider a sidestep given that kind of context.
Super helpful. And just to add to that, again, it's like I mentioned in the webinar, it's about being open and clear with your career goals, aspirations, and what that means to you. So if you are going to consider a sidestep, which I want to add in that I think that is a really good idea as well. I think, if you're joining a new firm as a sidestep, I think, again, it's that communication. Be clear with what you want, from the offset with your line manager. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to add in there, essentially. How easy is it to move from legal into professional services or professional services into legal? Okay, we have conversations like this a lot, don't we, Charles, within the office? Yeah. So, obviously, I work wider professional services, as I said at the top of the webinar. For me, my clients within the accountancy, consultancy and real estate space, they welcome candidates from legal. You make fantastic candidates. So yeah, no issue for me on that side at all. Again, it's just the partnership model. That's what you need to demonstrate. I think, that you've worked in a partnership. You know how to manage relationships, how you work with those senior stakeholders. That's the key thing. The structure, from accountancy to legal and so on, it's very similar.
Yes. Well, I suppose, yeah, for my end, in terms of like moving from professional services to legal, I mean, absolutely. It is definitely possible for, marketing and BD professionals from broader professional services to move into the legal sector. I would just say that we need to focus again on context and actual experience that you do have, because within the legal sector in particular, for example, I mean, the best route in is to have had sort of like the expertise already, either sort of like your actual skills or the commercial awareness within that specific space. So let's say you're coming from a real estate firm doing marketing and BD there, or events or communications. You're more likely to absolutely be credibly considered by a law firm where perhaps their marketing and BD role is also going to be focused within the real estate team, or within a law firm that is actually heavily involved in real estate work. And so again, just to kind of like say it again, it's all about context. It's all about the various factors. And we are happy to have that kind of like one-to-one conversation with you, more tailored advice regarding what feasibly we can get you or potentially put you forward for, given the information that we talk about. So absolutely don't hesitate to get in touch with me, Natalie, or any of our sort of specialist consultants here at Ambition.
Great. We've actually had a couple more questions come in while you've been speaking, Charles. I'm going to answer one more. We might have anything else that we can't answer today. We will absolutely come back to you directly. But this one is really interesting. So a member of the webinar said, I've been in exec for 3 years and I've been leading strategy meetings with partners, running events with them and external speakers. I struggle with articulating the value I've had as I don't receive guidance from my line manager. I make my own suggestions to the partners and create successful events with them. Could this be value in itself? I'm not very good at bigging myself up. So that's a really great question. And again, I'm happy to reach out to you after the webinar if you want to have a further discussion, because I think there's quite a few points there. So first of all, I would say I'm not very good at bigging myself up. I mean, who is? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't come natural, does it, to talk about our achievements? But again, I think that's a confidence thing. And that does come with time. The more you interview, the more natural that will become. But, you've got to back yourself, believe in yourself. I bet you have got fantastic experience. So again, that is something that Charles and I and the wider team at Ambition can absolutely help you with separately. Yeah, the rest of it is a little bit tricky, because if you're not getting the guidance from your line manager, that could be an issue, I suppose. Is there anyone else in your team that you could go to? I appreciate it's quite a tricky thing to navigate that, because you don't want to sort of put noses out of joints, etc. But if you're not getting what you need, then you're going to have to kind of look elsewhere for it. I mean, again, I don't know if it would be appropriate. I don't know your firm. I don't know what the culture's like. But could you talk to the partners? Maybe have a conversation about them around kind of what value they think your work has added. Would you second that, Charles? Do you think that's right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, I think, you're giving yourself a little bit sort of like, I think you're feeling a little bit deflated in terms of sort of like, very good at sort of like, bigging yourself up as much. But actually, I think that is it's a legal marketing and BD issue in terms of actually being able to really articulate the area's value to the broader sort of like legal sector or broader professional services, to the actual fee earners and partners. And so it's very important for all of us within this area who wants to champion marketing and BD to do that ourselves. And so if anything, absolutely, attend those sort of like network groups like the likes of the PM Forum or the LMA, to talk about the issues that we're facing. And one of them is, being able to kind of like raise our profile and our value within our firm, so they really understand why we are important in this space. So don't feel like you're alone in feeling that way. It's a constant thing that we are getting from our candidates and our clients. And so I would just second, don't doubt yourself. Definitely feel that what you're doing is valued, because it's very important as part of any role.
And also, just finally on this, when you work with Ambition, when you work with any of the consultants here, we will walk you through the interview process. If interview prep is something that you need, we will absolutely offer that. We can do mock interviews to help build your confidence. So, if you are nervous and you're struggling to articulate yourself in interviews, we can help you. That's no problem. Really, I'm really passionate about that, is giving people the confidence to kind of move themselves forward and believe in themselves. So we will help wherever you can. So we've gone over, so we're going to have to end it there, but thank you so much to everyone that's joined today. It's been fab. Thank you to Charles. Hope you all have a lovely weekend. And also, if you've got any other ideas of things that you want us to talk about for future webinars, again, please do reach out. But for now, thank you so much and have a lovely weekend. Take care.
Thank you so much.